we still are. Every individual is very important in everything that's happening right now, even on a small scale. It's progressing this whole thing, which I'm getting into some weird shit because I don't have any real answers. But that's my feeling, and that's my idea.
Man.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Talk Junkies, where we are coming to you from my basement and my house in the middle of the country of the United States of America, where many of our viewers reside, where they live, where they're from, is within the United States, but we're in the middle, the absolute middle, I think. I'm pretty sure we're darn close. Kansas might be. Kansas
Talking about
might
like
be.
Geographically? Or
Yeah. Like the accent. Yeah, I think it's Kansas.
I don't know.
Well, we're pretty damn close to the middle, man. And you guys all should be jealous about that. Maybe not really.
Doesn't matter.
But anyways.
Not one bit.
Doesn't fucking matter.
We got Johnny Jesse in the house. And, we're about to talk about some good shit. Unrelated to the current events that are going on right now. Because that seems to be flooding YouTube. And we're not really about flooding YouTube with the same information everyone else has. So hit it off, Jesse. Jesse and Johnny came over. They brought up some subjects that maybe we'll talk about tonight. And one that might piss some people off.
The one thing that I thought would be a good thing to talk about, even though this is an old subject, but it is whether or not the Confederate flag is appropriate or not. Is that the best way to maybe start it off?
It is currently the year 2020. Is the Confederate flag something that you should have either outside your house, on the back of your truck? Is that
t-shirt?
something that's, on a T-shirt, on a hat? Is the Confederate flag appropriate in the year 2020?
Because before you go in, Jesse, it's something that still happens within the United States.
Every day.
These people use these flags. A lot of people in high school, you'll see it, especially in the South and shit like that. Seniors in high school will have it on their truck, a flagpole with the Confederate flag, driving around. People still wear the hats. Especially here in the Midwest, I still see
all the time.
Yeah.
It's not a podunk town that we live in, but it's still a small town.
Small town, Bible Belt.
Yeah, small town, Bible Belt, which is so fucking ironic to me. But no, you still see a decent amount of Confederate flags, and it's mainly from one group of people. It is very uneducated, poor white people who tend to hoist the Confederate flag. I'm trying to think of, because I know I'm going to piss some people off whenever I talk about this. I'm just debating on when I start pissing people off.
Only the people who have Bass Pro hats with a fish hook through them and a lifted truck with, giant wheels. So
to start it off, I'm going to, I guess, go to the other side a little bit on my opinion on why I think that it's still around. I think it's due to a lack of education. And it makes them feel special in a part of a group, because I don't think everyone that has a Confederate flag is an outright racist. That's just like anything I've said before in the podcast, where I was like, you can't take a group of people, whether, if they're country rednecks, there's going to be good country rednecks, there's going to be bad country rednecks. The same way as far as people are wearing something, specific, that it doesn't make them good or bad necessarily. But I think that the issue is because they take it to where, oh man, I feel like I fit in and it makes me feel special to wear this. I think if they really knew everything that represented the Confederate flag, and as far as actual American history goes, that they probably wouldn't be so inclined to represent it so much. So this is the beginning of my argument, basically, as I think it's completely inappropriate to have anything representing the Confederate flag for multiple reasons. And I don't know if anybody here is gonna have some good arguing points behind this. I wish that I had somebody on the podcast as far as guests to be like, no, this is why the Confederate flag is important, because it represents my heritage. Which is that the biggest argument you would say?
The biggest argument that I have heard is that it represents the South and their heritage and everything, which, I came from Florida and I like Florida and all that, but you don't see me rocking a Confederate flag. Like, I'm not... I think that that's the biggest argument is heritage and representation, and even a little bit of there's nothing wrong with inherently being proud of a Confederate state. I'm not, obviously avoiding the whole slavery issue. There are some other good ideas there with the whole branching off from the federal government. There's nothing wrong with rebelling. And there's nothing wrong with holding that and thinking that that's part of your history and wanting to represent that you come from a place that was rebelling against the federal government. There's nothing wrong with that inherently. But what the flag is changed into...
Is that what you think of whenever you see the Confederate flag?
No, of course not, and nobody does.
Do you really think of a libertarian point of view? Because I'm a libertarian, I think the federal government's completely fucked. I do not like the federal government at all. I think that they're a huge hindrance to the everyday American and our progression and our betterment.
But you don't have a
and
Confederate
I
flag
would
poster,
never
do you?
raise a Confederate flag in representation of that, of my feelings. I still hold true to the American flag because I think
I'm just saying that that's the argument you hear.
Yes.
Maybe there doesn't have to be an argument. Just continue with what you're saying, man. I'm curious.
So my whole thing, as far as, because, okay, to come back to the argument to where a lot of people were, man, I wear the Confederate flag. I'm not a racist. It's just my heritage. Well, the Confederate flag was completely, basically, for the majority of it, completely gone after the Civil War. Nobody flew Confederate flags at all. When its resurgence happened was during the Civil Rights Movement, whenever the KKK decided that they were going to fly their separate but equal rights in the civil rights movement, and they were flying that flag in, and these are KKK members that brought all this back up. That was about this separation and a very much racist condemnation to it is when it had its resurgence. So this is, and people have been like, the South will rise again really started from that civil rights movement, whenever it really was based around a whole bunch of racist people.
Oh, it was
and like I said, that's when it's, and this is why I think a lot of people are just uneducated and maybe they don't fully, you need to be careful. You need to be careful with what you decide to start representing. The same way that I talk about the Bible, like if you're going to call yourself a Christian, but you couldn't quote me a Bible verse, I'm like, well, why would you ever claim to be that? I get it, because it puts you into a social group, and that's just a very common thing amongst this group of people that makes you feel welcome.
People want to be liked, and they want to be part of a group.
You want to feel liked and you want to feel welcome. But the issue is, you really need to, whenever you decide on, saying you are something, or as far as even having a flag, really know the history that happened within that. And there is a lot of bad shit, a lot of racist shit that is connected to the Confederate flag. Like I said, the last resurgence of it, whenever it got popular again, was through the KKK during the Civil Rights Movement, when...
what were the origins of the flag?
Of the Confederate flag?
Yeah.
Well, it was whenever they decided to split off from... God damn it.
Well, and that's not even... Okay, first off, the Confederate flag that we have today, like if you imagine a Confederate flag, maybe I'll put one on the video. Feels weird to do, but it's important for this. If you picture the Confederate flag right now, or I've got a picture of it up, and you're looking at it, that's not the actual Confederate flag. That's like a third wave Confederate flag that was never actually supported by the Confederates. It was called the battle flag of North Carolina or something like that, and it has to deal with the Navy. And it was never the original Confederate flag, and I'll put something on that too, that actually stood for the Confederacy and for the states, was a circle with like a red bar, a white bar, and another red bar.
And
a circle on the left.
Were the original Confederates racist?
Oh, I mean, yeah. There was
I mean,
still...
At that point, everyone was, right? For the most part? Or that's why they were trying to break away, was to get rid of that.
No, I mean, there was more to it than just that. But what I'm talking about is the fact that
that's
in
not what
general...
the
the people that were in power that represented that sect of the government were definitely racist.
Okay.
You can't talk about the people, because there were some people who grew up in the South during that time who probably had just the understanding that everybody should be treated equal, and these are people
For sure.
as well.
100%.
So you can't start. It gets difficult for me in a conversation because you just can't start placing one one ethical idea in a group of people, because that's not how people work.
So what I'm
especially when you start grouping them together, because people are individuals and people can still be like, you can. There were good Nazis and there were bad Nazis.
Right.
Not to
But
start going
there
down
was
that road.
there was an American flag at that time too, right? When there was a Confederate flag.
Yes, the Union, the U.S.
So
flag.
People were still racist at that point, and we still had an American flag. I'm just curious on the origins of the Confederate flag and why.
It just has to deal with the Confederacy during the Civil War,
Okay.
during the split off. That's
Okay.
all. That's all.
So
that
what
comes
you were
from.
saying is what's flown on the back of people's trucks and out in front of their houses and things like that aren't
That's
the
not
actual,
the actual Confederate flag. That's the battle flag of North Carolina, or the Navy flag, the Navy Jack. It's not the actual Confederate flag.
Okay.
And it was never the Confederate flag.
Now, if you start wondering why the one that's so popular right now is taken up amongst people, and I'm not calling that everybody that has a Confederate flag is a racist. I just think
it's
they're
about them not knowing.
I think it's because that they're uneducated. The resurgence of this whole thing, which I will come back to again because I think it's really important to understand, is that it was brought back up by the Ku Klux Klan during them fighting this to keep this separate but equal standpoint within the civil rights movement, when you had the black community trying to establish themselves as equal human beings, basically. And that flag, that Confederate flag, was flown to keep a certain people down, which is why I think it's extremely inappropriate. And I think a lot of people,
I'm going to add a little more to that real quick with the whole because it's like what you were saying earlier. Basically, after after like 1865, 1867. I'm not good at history. Whenever the Civil War ended in the 1860s, whatever. After that, you didn't see the Confederate flag at all. It wasn't something that people still held with pride. It wasn't something that people wore or had out front of their house. It was gone. It was completely gone. It wasn't. It had nothing to do with history or people still representing. It had fallen out of style. And like Jesse was saying, it was brought back in the 50s and a little bit of the 60s as well, but mostly the 50s, with basically the Ku Klux Klan. You had the Dixiecrats, which is another one that was like a very around the time of all the Jim Crow laws, the separate but equal, like you were saying, that's when it was brought back up. Excuse me, Jesus, voice cracking. That's when it was brought back up, and that's what it represents today. It would have never been brought back up if it wasn't for those specific reasons. You literally have states that incorporated it, by the way, like Mississippi, Alabama. They incorporated the Confederate flag, actually not the Confederate flag, the battle flag of whatever, not the real Confederate flag, but the one that everybody knows. They incorporated that, or elements of that, as part of their state flag. The time that they incorporated that was literally during the Civil Rights Movement, and they added it during Jim Crow laws, when they were supporting the separate but equal thing, and they wanted to spread dissidence between the African American community and bring those people down. They were literally passing poll tax laws so that if you were poor, you couldn't go to the polls, you couldn't vote. They were passing laws about I can't remember the other ones. I wish I knew more on this subject, to be honest. That there was a whole bunch of stuff that was being passed in these states, in Mississippi, in Alabama, in Florida, in South Carolina, all these places. There were these laws being passed that the entire purpose of the law was to keep black people from voting and keep black people from having rights. And at this exact same time, you have multiple groups, anti-African American groups, whether that be the Ku Klux Klan, the Dixiecrats, whatever, plus the states themselves, now incorporating that third wave Confederate flag, the flag that we know today as the Confederate flag, into all of their propaganda and into their actual state flags. So to act like that flag doesn't represent racism is just ignorant.
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna wave a flag,
absurd.
it should be the actual original Confederate flag. It shouldn't be the flag that represents racism.
Which the original one does too. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with being proud of your heritage, and there's nothing wrong with being like, man, my state stood up against the federal government. There's nothing wrong with that. But that is not what that flag represents. It does not represent your state standing up against the government. And if you wear a Confederate flag shirt and you think that it has to deal with your heritage, and you don't even know the fact that it was gone from the 1860s all the way to the 1950s and then used again during a resurgence of Jim Crow laws, then why are you supporting it? You really obviously don't care about your heritage if you didn't do the minimal amount of research required to even know that small fact.
I think that that's the big thing that I was trying to come across, is because there are people who just fly the Confederate flag who aren't racist, and I think that they're just ignorant to the fact that they didn't read into the history enough, and they end up being accepted by a group of people which probably has some racist fucking involved in it. You need to be careful whenever you decide to claim something. Like, you need to really take some time to do some research on exactly what you're claiming and what you're saying, because it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm this, but I haven't done any research on this. I just hang out with a bunch of them. You need to actually look into what you're claiming, because it does have validity to it, and it does have meaning. And I really feel like if more people were to look into a lot of the things that they claim to be, that there would be a lot of shame there, and a lot of rethinking on what they decide to claim to be, as far as titles go and things that you fly in front of your house. You just need to be really careful with that. It's not something you should take lighthearted, but
it's crazy to think that it's still happening today, honestly. And again, you said a lot of it comes down with education and people not doing the research for them to put a piece of clothing on or something on their vehicle, driving that flag around when they have no idea what the fuck it is. Like, that's truly ignorant, honestly, just what it comes down to. I have an American flag in the front of my house, and I stand true to that because I do believe in the United States and our Constitution. Whether or not that is being attacked or whether or not that's even real, I do believe in the foundation of the United States of America.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
The flag represents the people.
Exactly.
It's the people who live here, and it's our country, and that's the flag that we fly. No, you shouldn't have some pride for the American flag, regardless of whether or not you think the government's fucking pieces of shit. And the federal government's a fucking piece of shit. That's my fucking opinion, but I'm not going to go out and burn a flag over it, because they don't represent the flag. We do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It is something more than that. And I think, there's always bad shit with anything. Nobody's got it right perfectly. But I can tell you this, man. Flying the Confederate flag has a lot of negative condemnation to it. And if you really look into it, I think a lot of people would rethink, like, flying it, because I think a lot of those people aren't racist. I just don't think that they've looked into it enough. And I think that to the people who are educated and see them, now you're being immediately looked down upon and you don't want to be placed in that scenario either, because I don't want to have that conversation with you, because I think
that, well, no, that's what it stems to. And then their argument is always that it represents their history. And I'm like, I have no problem with that argument, as long as you actually follow through with that argument. And you can't, because you don't know your history, because you don't know what it's actually coming from. You're saying it comes from the states being separate or whatever, but you realistically, I mean, I'm sure there's some out there that do, but there are people out there who are not racist in any way, shape, or form, who fly the flag because the Confederate flag, because they think that it's cool, or because it's what their peers do, and it's not a status symbol. What am I looking for?
It's a cool thing to do. It's a popular fucking thing to do, because
it's in style for their group of friends.
Whatever place you grew up in, and because everybody else had it.
It's in style for their group of friends, so they do that.
No,
but
it's because
you can't argue that it's about your history if, when I ask you about the 50s and you know nothing about the Jim Crow laws and the resurgence of the Confederate flag, if you know nothing about that, then you can't say that that's a part of your history. You're just using that as an excuse, because it's the excuse that all your friends and everybody else has always told you to use.
Is that it's your heritage?
Well, that it's your heritage.
Do you know what your real fucking heritage is? Is the American flag that we fly under right now. That's your heritage. You can argue it any which way you want. That's your heritage now. And yeah, you can go back and learn about history, But that one flag is not your fucking heritage, in my opinion.
Just
You're
do
getting
the
it wrong.
research. Honestly,
I had to piss somebody off
I think
tonight.
that's what it comes down to within this whole conversation about this subject. Is legitimately, if you're going to fly that flag or any article of clothing about it, then please know. If you stand behind it, then yeah, you most likely are racist, especially the flag that it is today, because it's not even the original flag, right? So if you're truly wearing that and you know what it is, then you're probably a racist. And that's unfortunate because I feel like we need to be beyond that point 100%.
So that's the one thing that I thought was an interesting topic because it's not going over enough.
No, it's
But-
not.
Another good way to put it, and I didn't even think of this till just now. Even after everything we've said, maybe you do some research on it yourself. So you've listened to us and you do some research on it yourself, and you still feel like it's not racist and you should have every right to wear it. Think about the fact that you don't have to wear it. There's no reason to. I guarantee you that if an African American goes into a place that is full of Confederate flags, they're probably not going to feel safe or wanted there. And you're a part of that if you support that. Whether you can say it's your heritage, you can say it's whatever, any excuse you want. But if you know that deep down they're not going to feel comfortable in that area,
No, you're right.
then
You should feel
you're a
little weird
supporter
about
of that.
Yep, I agree entirely.
It doesn't come down
Dude,
to racism. Doesn't come down to anything else. If you in the back of your mind willingly know that if there are 5 trucks parked out there with Confederate flags on their back, and that a black person's going to feel uncomfortable around there, then there's probably an issue with that flag and what it represents today.
For sure. And we should be past that, man. We
should be
We
past
should be
that.
way past that.
You would think.
And-
you would think.
And honestly, like you said, human beings aren't perfect in any way, shape, or form, and everyone has the right to feel the way that they want to do. But God damn it, can we please get past that, man? Like, we are all equal. We are all on this spinning rock together, doing these things together, living this life together. Can we please all just get along? That's truly what it comes down to. Fuck that flag. Fuck the Confederate flag, man. People need to get along with each other. We all need to be one. We all need to unite. We all need to fucking make a better life for our children's that are being born right this very second on this earth. Because right now we're not doing a very good job of that. And this is just a small testament of this conversation of why there is it's a very meek, is that a word?
Yeah.
Meek future for these children because we're still having these conversations. That's what's so frustrating.
I don't think you used the word.
Yeah, I mean,
correctly.
you're probably
You
looking for
didn't-
bleak.
yeah.
There's
Bleak,
a very
yes.
bleak,
Yeah,
very
future.
bleak
Yeah,
future
use the
for
word.
for our children. That's what I'm trying to say because we're still having because we're having to have these conversations. So I'm glad you brought it up. Truly, Jesse.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, man. Like,
And hopefully that gets across to somebody to where they and the whole point is it's not just the Confederate flag. It's if you claim something, if you claim a title on something, don't just claim it because it's what's popular and cool. You need to look back and because it does have meaning. What you're claiming to be, you can only claim ignorance so long if you hold the title. You need to know what that means and what the history is really behind that. So that's my. It doesn't.
And that should
Obviously,
be-
obviously, the big
honestly,
point
you
is
can't-
the Confederate flag and like waving the Confederate flag. But if you claim a title, or if you have any flag, don't just wave it because you like the fucking colors. You need to know the history fucking behind it and at least make an attempt. I get it. We're human beings. Everybody, fucks up and can get some shit wrong here and there. But so many people are just so quick into claiming something, and then they don't know shit fucking about it.
Well, and I was
I
going to
don't
say,
get it.
I don't
I
think
don't
that
get
the claiming ignorance thing doesn't apply for very long, by the way. No matter what it is, I'm not just talking about the Confederate flag. I'm talking about what you are right now with the whole, this can go for anything. Any group you attach yourself to, any ideology that you have, anything that you follow in any way, shape, or form. If there's something wrong with it, like you can only claim ignorance before enough people have talked to you and explained situations to you for you to do some research on your own and realize that at this point you're not actually claiming ignorance anymore. You're feigning ignorance. You're pretending to be ignorant to the fact, which is almost worse because now you're representing something that you know is wrong, but pretending like you don't know because it's that important to you just because it looks cool or it feels cool to be part of this group, which is almost worse
Well, that brings up a whole nother issue, is that maybe they have to put on the farce to be accepted by this group of people, because if not, they're ostracized out of that group and then completely left
But
alone.
stand
and
up
they feel as though
for what you believe in to a degree, like
It's not
on a
hard.
moral level.
It's not hard to
There-
do a little bit of research to at least go either one way or another. You can.
we just in my whole thing, we need to be more careful about the titles and the things that we represent on the outside, especially something as blatant as a flag.
For sure.
We need to be more careful with this. Is my whole thing. So
It's a good point.
So, are humans even necessary on this earth? How necessary are we?
What a transition.
How necessary are we? I mean, we talked a little bit about it before we got into the podcast.
not at all. I'm gonna piss.
And I almost, I mean,
Not at all.
so alleged. Okay, so from what certain scientists have said, the universe is the universe is 17 billion years old. Some say 14 billion. The Earth is right around 4 billion years old. Right?
I have no idea. I haven't done enough.
Yeah,
I don't
for
know.
sure. And humans, from what some scientists suggest, you could go as far back as 100,000 to 200,000 years ago for apes or ape-like human people. You know what I'm
I
saying?
haven't looked into this very
No,
much.
I
so
got
I'm
you.
just
I got
listening
you.
to-
But so I'm just curious on your guys' thoughts. I mean, especially with how you and Jesse were talking earlier on how necessary you think that humans are. Because from the conversation that we had, I think Johnny and Jesse believe that we are a stepping stone for technology, and that's kind of in a way.
yes and no. I think you're saying a stepping stone for technology. It depends on your description or your definition of technology.
The end of my sentence was going to be that
Sorry.
it's a form of evolution. Is what I was going to.
Exactly, which it is, and it has nothing to do with tech. Like we were talking about before the podcast, it has nothing to do with technology per se. It's a form of evolution that's. Stuff will always change. Everything will constantly change no matter what. Like Jesse likes to say a lot, that's the only thing that's guaranteed is that things will change. We evolved in whatever way from something smaller and then to Neanderthals to past Neanderthals to the humans that we are today through a series of evolution. Just because AI or technology or whatever you want to call it may be the next step doesn't mean that it's not still part of natural evolution. If we have gotten to the point to develop these things that will take over after us, and I'm not happy about this, by the way. I'm just saying that it's a natural course that happens. If we have gotten to a part or a place in time where we as a species are educated enough, smart enough, intellectual enough to develop something that comes after us, whether that's good or bad and ends up killing us off or advancing us, either way, that is still a type of evolution. Maybe not on a biological level or a genetic level, but it's still something that we have created and passed on,
So
something that we have turned into.
I have one question for you. I'm just curious because I find what you both said, I find it fascinating because honestly, I think that's the route that we're heading on. I think that truly, Jesse, what you said earlier about if AI is created and they look at what humans do and our progression, which is very small, especially in today's day and age, on how we fight with each other, the division, the people who are corrupt, who are running the country, or whatever you want to say. I think it was very interesting what you said, that AI would probably kill us off because we are not needed at that point once we create AI. But Johnny, my question is, what are your thoughts on, let's say that some of that didn't happen, and do you think that humans could progress and evolve into something more beautiful than what we are now?
Why isn't AI something more beautiful than what we are?
No.
First of all,
it is. But what I'm saying is, throughout actual evolution, like natural evolution, do you think that humans could evolve into something better?
I still think that is a form of natural evolution.
What you're already talking, you don't mind if I interrupt?
Yeah,
really
go for it.
We're already talking about us humans evolving into something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a complete changing and restructuring of who we are right now. So fundamentally, what you're saying is that we are not perfect beings, that there is plenty of room for improvement, right?
Well, what I'm saying is we've evolved, from, like Johnny said, from Neanderthals to humanoid. We went through this progression. If Darwin is correct,
and then now we're here,
right?
Now we're here,
right?
And now there are plenty of people that will tell you that human beings are the fucking greatest goddamn gift to the universe, and the universe revolves around us, and religion.
You're stuck in a moment.
There's a lot
in
of
time.
mainstream religions that have the focus that we're the end all be all. I disagree, because that is a very almost cynical way to look at the world. What is all these other pieces that have brought us to here, right? So they were just to get us here. How are we not just the next stepping stone to the next big thing? To the next big thing we can never even fucking perceive down the line of history, which is honestly all we have evidence of, is this transition, this change that's constantly happening, and we just so happen to be here and now, and we're like, oh man, it's the best shit has ever been, technology is the best, most information. Yeah, that's how it's always been. It's always been. It's going to be the same fucking way 20 years from now. Now, what you have an issue with is the human issue that we become corrupt and fuck shit up. And it's evident throughout time that we do this. And I know it sounds bad because it almost sounds like I'm hating on my own species right now. But I am. It's inevitable. You've heard me say this on podcasts before, as far as hierarchies and the inevitability over a long enough timeline that corruption ends up happening and shit fucking happens. It will always be the way, and I said we would have to transition into something other than being human in order to fix this fundamental problem. This sounds really bad. I hear the words coming out of my mouth. I'm like, man, people are going to be fucking, what the fuck is this guy saying? He sounds anti-human right now. No. Human beings are very necessary, but we are not the end-all be-all in this universe, and I don't think it's going to end with fucking humans. There's going to be shit way fucking after us.
It's not going to end with whatever the next step is either.
Yeah, no, we are just the next portion, and I think that it should be a humbling thing for us to understand that we need to do the best that we can right now to make the best decision for the day that we are given right now to help better the world in this progression. Because I see a lot of shit that's not doing that. I see a lot of shit that's hindering the future. I see a lot of shit that's hindering the development of technology. I don't think it should be something that should be stamped out and fucking gotten rid of, and we need to keep this status quo. Bullshit. I think that there is nothing wrong with understanding that we are not the fucking tits of the fucking universe, that there's going to be shit after us. Everybody hopes that there's shit after us, right? We have limited lives. We're finite. There's got to be shit after us, right? Even if all the human beings were gone, some other shit would be happening on the other corner of the fucking universe right now. We need to do what we can right now to do things better. I know I'm getting off track right now. I think it should be a humbling thing to understand our place in the universe, that we definitely have a place in the universe and we have purpose. But we are not this end-all, be-all, and oh man, fuck everything else that fucking happens after us. I think it I don't know. I'm going off. Somebody else can talk now. My bad.
I think people are I think part of it comes down to fear. There's the old saying of that, like, living in the past is depressing and looking towards the future is full of fear. Like, I'm butchering the saying, but it's basically that the present is the only time that you actually have. The present is, right now, and everything can be okay. As toward the past, you look at the past and mistakes, you're going to get depressed. You look at the future and you're scared because of the unknown, because you don't know what happens. I mean, that's, not to get on this subject, but that's half the reason that religion exists, is because of the whole, you're afraid of the future. You want to think that after you die, something happens. I don't want to go down the religion road, but that's literally, it stems from that. I mean, that's a part of it, is you want to know what happens after you die. You want to know what happens in the future. But at the same time, when you look into that, you're scared. So you need some semblance of hope there, something to go on. And people are so afraid of what happens in the future that we get stuck in the now, which comes back to the whole full circle back to the humanity thing, and that humans are the end-all be-all and we're so great, is because we're stuck in the now. We can't look at this perception, or from a different perception of looking, hey, we're not the greatest thing that's ever happened. There will be stuff in the future better than us, and that's okay. That's the process of evolution. That's the process of life. There's nothing wrong with that, and you don't have to be afraid of that.
Shouldn't that be the point anyway? To realize that things that beget you, I might be using that word wrong, that come after you are better, and that they get to learn and they're better, right?
But
isn't that how we are?
It's something.
Isn't that how we are? The reason why we are now in this moment.
It's something we created, though. But honestly, truly, I think that eventually there will be some sort of, not cure or medicine, but people are going to be able to live for very long periods of times. Human beings, at some point,
that could very well happen.
And
But then after that, there will still be something else. That's the whole
For
point,
sure.
is that no matter what you do, eventually there will be something after us. And living in fear that our time will end
But my question
is a terrible way to live. Don't be afraid of it.
But that was my question. Do you not believe that human beings can progress from what we are now?
Of course we can.
And I don't know, no one has the answer, but I'm glad that you said that we can, because I think that if we're right here, right now, what we're doing, corruption, blah, 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 billions of dollars, the 1%, the 99%, all that shit, if we can change and do better and everyone has some sort of equal rights, I mean, I don't want to go down that road, but I'm saying humans can progress, and it will happen over time.
Okay, here's the other thing I want to throw into that real quick, Paul. And this is 100% another example of me doing the whole devil's advocate thing, because I actually I want to be around for a while. Add in that fear factor, right? Like, I don't want AI to just take over tomorrow and kill us all off, even if that's the next natural stepping stone, because there's a part of me that's afraid of that because I'm looking into the future. Trying to get past that, though, you have to realize that you say humans can't advance, which is very probable, but you have to be willing to accept and be okay with that maybe the next step of advancement is not us.
Yeah, no,
Like, you want humans to be better. You want corruption. You want to get rid of corruption. You want to get rid of hierarchies. And maybe we do have the ability to do that.
I would be okay with that.
But
I would be okay with that. But as long as we reach our highest level of understanding.
What if this is our highest level, and then something has to reach it after us?
If I knew for 100% certainty that this was the
You'll
highest
never
level,
know. You'll never know.
No, I know that. But if I knew that, then yeah, I would have to be okay with it. It wouldn't. It's forced, but I would have to be
But
okay
you have
with
to be
it.
okay with it no matter what. That's the point I'm getting at. And this is, like I said, this is all just, we're getting into some philosophy and hypotheticals and everything else, but it's the fact that you can't, what Jesse said earlier about the end all be all. Humans are not it, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be accepting of that. It doesn't mean that you're just like, you give up on life. You don't have to be a nihilist and just give up on everything. You should still live the best life that you can and try to improve stuff. And like you said earlier, for the betterment of everybody. Because it's the next big thing could be 800,000 years from now. Who knows? The whole point, though, is that there will be something else after us.
People would have a better understanding of this if they fucked with more psychedelics, in my opinion, because there is no better feeling than taking, like, for me it was always shrooms, and then having that moment, that little bit of moment to where you recognize that you have importance, but yet you're so small, and there are so many things that you could never understand, but yet you're still important in all of this. And I think people get too caught up in that God complex to where they want to be gods of their realm, when that's not how human beings are supposed to be. We're meant for a very much different thing than to be gods of, like I said, like gods of the realm that fucking, influence. I mean, we see how good it works right now, right? Like, we put people in positions of power and it ends up being corrupted. It doesn't work. We still are, every individual is very important in everything that's happening right now, even on a small scale. It's progressing this whole thing, which I'm getting into some weird shit because I don't have any real answers, but that's my feeling, and that's my idea.
Man, do you have a Confederate flag on the back of your car?
That's Chinese shit right there, bro.
Idea? No, that's... Anyways.
Shit. No, I mean, this is such, like, stupid, uplifting fucking bullshit nobody needs to fucking hear right now.
There's nothing wrong with uplifting bullshit.
I think people, because honestly, talking about uplifting shit like this and telling it, oh, your life has meaning, doesn't do anything for the individual. It's almost pointless to say. Even though I believe in it, it's pointless to say, because they go, well, how does it apply to me? How does it apply to me? And nobody ever sits down and discovers themselves enough. And that happens within the individual. And I can't just sit here and talk about why you're important or how you're important. That's actually up to you. And I know that's some crazy fucking thing to hold on to.
No, you're not going to have anybody else be able to tell you that.
Oh, everyone's important. Okay, jerk off. Now you get to decide, how am I going to be important here in this whole thing? And you still have this free will. You can still change the world. You can still, on small levels, you can still do different shit. I can't explain it to you.
I got a
It's up to
question.
you.
I got a question. What would and I know this is all. I know we're going down some weird shit right now.
Doesn't matter.
Fuck it, man.
Nothing else to fucking talk about.
Yeah.
I'm sick of talking about the government being corrupt, and I'm sick of talking about coronavirus.
Right.
So this is what we're talking about.
Yeah. So what would the world be like without humans or even animals? What happens if it's no animals, no humans, and it's just the Earth?
Well, okay. First off,
Why
would you not have a different version of whatever animals are?
I'm not giving you a different version. I'm just saying specifically there are no humans and no animals.
Okay, so you still have nature. Nature exists.
That's it.
You can have artificial constructs. Something else would exist. Something that we've created.
I'm specifically saying there are no humans and no animals.
I know, and I'm giving you an answer.
Would there be a point for that Earth to even exist at that point?
Of course.
What point?
You don't think that everything has a point right now? You don't think that Mars should exist?
I think the best thing that I can rebuttal as far as what he's saying is Lawrence Krauss said, almost if you get back to the origin of it, it's almost as though humans exist to measure the universe. And I think whenever he means measure, I think he means experience and document it. So what he's saying is there needs to be some higher sentient being to experience, measure, document basically what humans do in order, because what an elk, so you have an earth, and they all have just basic animals that can't tell history. They evolved and adapt to their environment, and they do that for a couple million years, and an asteroid comes in and destroys it. What was the purpose?
Right.
What was the purpose of that? Right? It's almost as though human beings' purpose is to measure the environment and the scenario that we're in right now. That's the best explanation, but I mean, you start getting into God shit any farther after that, which nobody has an answer to.
For sure.
So it's a really deep question.
All I was going to say to your question, Paul, is that I still feel like it's looking too small scale. You say, what's the point? Does Earth need to even exist after there's no humans and there's no animals? I mean, by that logic, does another galaxy need to exist? We're in the Milky Way right now. There's other galaxies out there. You've got Andromeda. You've got a ton of other stuff that I don't know because I'm not a goddamn astronomist. But like, then everything has a point or a purpose in some way. And just because we don't exist doesn't mean that the Earth doesn't continue being. Now, from your perception, from like from the human conscience, sure, yeah, there's no reason for any of it because we're all gone. So we can't perceive any change after that. After you're dead, you don't perceive anything that's still happening. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. That's basic level of like if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound.
Well, the reason I asked that question, it was the basis of the second subject. But I'm just saying, with all this lockdown shit that's going on, like how much the Earth has actually recovered from not as much human movement. I mean, there's less pollution.
Okay, so you're getting more into the nature side of things is what you're talking about.
Well, no, I'm a little bit of both, but But I'm just like, how necessary are we whenever you see this lockdown happen and you see just like the Earth starting to recover? Like it's a small Band-Aid because eventually we're going to go back to business as usual, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's just crazy the amount of just like air pollution you're seeing less in some of the bigger cities, and you're able to actually see mountains from further away because there's less pollution, shit like that.
You know what? This weird, crazy idea of people talking about, oh, let's not pollute the atmosphere. That way our children have a better future. Mm-hmm. Well, unless we progress enough in science to where we can get off this planet at some point, like if we never get the technology to leave the planet and then inhabit another planet.
This sun will die. This planet will die.
This planet will go away regardless of what pollution is.
Yeah.
This is on a ticking time bomb as it is. I know it's a shit ton of time. But I mean, you got to think about it like that too. Is that there is no saving. There is no saving any of this. And guess what? Human beings go and inhabit another planet. Well, from the way that it's looking right now, this universe is also on a ticking time bomb. So at some point, we have to physically escape the universe.
That's right. Okay.
To go to another universe.
I'm not trying to start.
Everything is on this ticking time bomb that nothing
no
will last.
No one knows how the universe is going to end. I'm
not advocating pollute the planet and all that shit.
No.
I'm just showing you the mentality.
I want to specifically say that there's not one person that's lived on this earth or even lives on this earth that knows when the universe is going to end.
Yeah, obviously.
That's all I'm going to say. But how do you know it's a ticking time bomb?
You don't think that everything has a beginning and an end?
I don't know. That's too deep for me, man.
Okay.
I don't think anyone knows the answer to that.
You're right.
So that's why I can't say yes or no to
okay,
that.
well, I can give you the best example that science can give you is the fact that we understand that the universe is expanding, and at some point, because everything's moving away from everything else, that at some point nothing can hold on to what it's being held on as far as planetary orbits, inhabitable life. At some point, the universe will expand so much to where it cannot inhabit life.
Could you imagine being alive during that time? That would be dope.
I mean, you wouldn't be.
I would way rather be alive on Earth for that than the coronavirus.
I think that's in, I don't know if science is going to say it, but I mean, isn't that the trend of what we see throughout life? Is that things had a beginning, a life had a beginning, things will also has to have an end. It's how we tell our
the
stories.
Natural order of
It's
things.
the literal, name something that is infinite. We call it God, but I mean, who fucking
The
can
universe,
place
I mean-
their fucking finger on that?
As of right now, the universe is infinite, right?
No.
No.
How not?
No.
It has an end. We just don't know where it is.
We can.
So then how do you know it's not infinite?
You don't know, but we don't know that it is either.
True.
Then you start getting into some God shit. What we can tell right now is that things have to cycle.
What are we able to see through our observable universe right now? I think it's like only like 50%
50% of what?
of the observable
fuck?
universe of what scientists on this earth have been able to see. Or
We don't
see
know
what-
that. No,
No,
you
that's
couldn't. You
not
couldn't
even-
put
no,
a.
it's not
You
even
couldn't
close.
put a percentage
I mean-
on.
No, they have it. They have that. There was a map. They came out a couple of years ago saying that there's a possibility that Earth is actually the center of the universe. That's 100%. You can look it up legitimately.
Of our observable universe. Do you understand what that
Yeah.
is that we get that there's a
From
universe.
what we can see.
We can
Right.
only see so far. So of course we're going to be in the middle.
We're
of
in
that.
the middle because if you look in all directions.
I'm not saying just with the human eye. I'm saying with actual telescopes.
Okay,
and shit
no,
like
no,
that.
Yes, the
regardless.
same concept.
With
Because
telescopes-
at some point, you can only see so far with our technology.
I'm just saying with your scientists that you guys like and that you love, I'm just saying they came out with an article saying that we actually might be the center of the universe.
the center
I'm
of the
just saying.
observable universe.
I'm just saying.
We
We
have
are-
to be the
we
center of
are
the
the center
observable
of the
universe
observable
because
universe.
we're observing it from Earth.
No.
So we would have to be the
no,
center of it.
No, they're actually saying we're legitimately the center of the universe. Is what the
I-
article
I-
said.
you
Pull up
show
that
me this
fucking
article,
article.
Paul.
I will.
Pull
Okay.
up that amount of ignorance because I'm not a scientist and Lawrence Krauss would never fucking say that.
I'm
out of
just
his
saying.
mouth.
I'm just saying
Not
that
to back up.
We,
Lawrence
we
Krauss,
but
shout out,
but
I
no.
really
What
like
Jesse's
Lawrence
saying, we are the center of the observable universe. You
For
have
sure.
to be. That's how you observe things.
I get that.
You spin 360 degrees, look all around you. You're going to be the middle of that.
No, I get that. I'm just saying from what we can actually see, of the actual universe, how can we really say with definite answer that it's expanding in the first place?
I mean, math. You can measure the distance between things and then realize that they change and get farther away from each other.
You're talking light years, though, bro.
That's still math. That's still basic math. Man, I don't want to get into this on the
Yeah,
podcast
no,
because
because
we've had this
you're about to
conversation a million
argue-
times. 'cause
you're
you're
about
about
to
to
get
get
on-
on.
arguing
I'm
You're about to get on some
legit-
stupid shit.
I'm legitimately not going to get on. I'm just asking legitimate questions. You say light years or just math? Yeah,
It
cool.
is.
That's
It's basic math.
okay.
There's a difference between 1 inch and 5 inches. That's basic math. It doesn't matter whether it's light years or inches.
I feel you.
Paul's got 12 more minutes to.
It
to
just
say
it
some
just
shit.
it just makes me curious to try and wrap my head around the actual universe and how.
And there's
it
nothing
works.
wrong with that.
That should be so difficult. It should be so difficult because we are so small. We are so infinitesimally small in comparison to everything else. You should be in awe of the fact that I'm sitting here talking into a fucking mic with other people who have, similar genetics to me, and other people can fucking see this like a couple days from now. We should be in awe of that. We should be in awe of everything. None of this should fucking make sense, to be honest with you. Whenever you get down to like origin, and that's when we start filling it in with fucking God, and science can only do so much too. Science is not an outright answer to everything, especially not ethically.
No, it explains a very small amount.
Science does not handle anything ethically, which is, in my opinion, what we need to be focused on more in America is ethics and not so much fucking science.
Do you think that there's going to be an NFL season next year? Or this year, sorry,
Absolutely.
this year. Do
Absolutely.
you think NFL it'll be 70,000 fans spot on? They're going to allow 77,000 Arrowhead Chiefs fans to come in and watch the Chiefs play football come August.
I'm not going to get into this because I'm literally avoiding anything coronavirus related right now.
I'm just asking. Do you truly think that that's going to happen?
We got 10 minutes left on the podcast. Why not polish it off with some bullshit?
Yeah. Do you think do you think that will happen?
With everything within me, I can't say a yes or a no. I'll give you a percentage. I'm going to say it's 80% that there will be an NFL season as of my view right now, because this is how people tend to handle things who know somewhat of what they're talking about. They never give you a definite answer. They just give you percentage, because guess what? A week from now, if a vaccine comes out, it'll be like 100%. There's a fucking there's an NFL season. Everything changes. So as of right now, as of me sitting here in this chair and everything that I know, I'm going to say that there's going to be an 80% chance that there's an NFL season. Now, I bet you they roll back some preseason games. I will almost.
I'm down
bet
with that.
on that.
For
I bet
sure.
you they roll back to like two preseason games. And I bet you they don't start implementing the new shit that they were talking about. That'll probably be pushed back overall, because they just need to get the ball rolling.
Let's say a second wave comes through. Does the NFL season happen?
If we don't fuck up as a nation, if it really has the validity that it has, if there's a second wave, then
Depends on the severity of that.
Oh, man. Actually, I'd say I'd go the exact opposite. There's 80% not an NFL season.
So I'm saying it depends on the severity of whatever you call a second wave.
If the validity, which I'm not going to say that I know too much about this, but if it does, like what happened with the Spanish flu, if that happens again.
Oh, if it was to be like that equivalent, of course not.
No.
We don't have a season.
Yeah, not at all.
Of course
I'd
not.
say I go the opposite
Because
route.
there's
I go
so much more
80%
that's
we
important.
don't.
You're talking about human life at that point.
Right.
But with the point we're at right now, I don't see a reason not to, because, I do see a reason not to, but they're not going to do that strictly for money. The NFL makes so much money, and money runs the world. I've had this conversation multiple times in the podcast where I talk about the fact that they do it for money. Everything that any kind of corporation or large conglomerate does is for money at the end of the day. And they will do that, regardless of human life, to a degree.
Well,
if 20 million people start dying, of course not.
Right.
Of course not.
So what I'm
but
saying,
with like a 2%, 1% mortality rate, yeah, they're gonna have.
Well, this is the first time since the Spanish flu, and with the way the media is now, and we've had many other viruses and shit like that, but this one is very serious, and stuff like that. That now there's a 3-phase plan that Trump is coming out with, right? And I read it because I work at a restaurant, and I'm just curious on when we're going to get our business back, because it's very important to a lot of people who rely on money and how to pay shit.
Yeah.
And I was curious. Phase 1 of the plan is like, it's going to be like 10 to 15 or 20% occupancy. I don't know. You can, I'll send you the link. You can put it on here, blah, blah, blah.
I don't know what this has to do with the NFL, but
if it goes that far, if let's say we're in phase 2, whenever the NFL season starts, then it's only gatherings of 50 or less.
I never understood that idea of you just slowly phase it back in. Why not? If it's working right now, which I'm pretty sure it is working right now, we can see the numbers drop, right? Why not just keep it where it's at?
just continue doing what you're doing.
Keep it where it's at. The Federal Reserve can just print money, right?
Yeah.
It only fucks us. It legitimately only fucks us, which they don't give a shit about us at all. They give a shit about corporations. Corporations will be fine. We're already bailing out corporations that don't need to be fucking bailed out.
We're paying for that.
Why not go on ahead and just have a little bit of decency and hold this fucking thing out, and then have, do another fucking stimulus, put us into debt, which we're the ones paying for it. Put us into more debt. Hey, we're okay with it. We saved 15 million lives. And yeah, we got to pay fucking $10 for a gallon of milk, but at least, man, we saved 10 million fucking lives, and the people up top make more money anyway. I don't get it. Jesus Christ!
That's why I hate talking about this.
That's
why I hate talking about this. We've talked about this the last 4 weeks,
fucking humanity,
and it all revolves around the fact that people don't give a shit about other fucking people.
For sure. So I was just curious if the NFL was going to start. MLB might. We'll see. I think WWE actually was able to have an episode, or one of their. It's an episode. WWE convinced the governor of Florida to actually allow them to have a match. I don't know if that's true. I need to look into that. I'm just curious when we're going to get back to some normalcy. And like I said, Trump has this three-phase plan that's going to happen. And phase 2 is 50 people or less, and then that phase 3 is whenever it's a full open.
The problem is that everything is constantly shifting, so you can't know when there's going to be some normalcy, because it's the same as like a weatherman predicting Man, I could tell you that there's a 50% chance that it's going to rain tomorrow.
But
I fucking win no matter what. It either does or it doesn't because I said 50%. Like, I'm not wrong.
no, I get
either
it.
way.
But eventually, it has to happen. You know, when you're
But
talking
you
about
can't-
when you're
but you
talking,
can't know when.
You can though, because you're talking about human lives, man. You're talking about people living a normalcy life. If we go based on fear of dying and living within our houses in close quarters and doing social distancing and shit like that, that's no life to live, man. Eventually, we have to get back to the way that we were.
Just do another stimulus. Do another fucking stimulus. Have the Federal Reserve print out a bunch of money. We'll go to war with somebody in the next fucking 5 years because of all this to help pay for it. And then another corporation will get bailed out. And they'll have a $50 million fucking bonus of the CEOs and people on board and the CFOs of all these fucking shit. And we'll just pay for it again.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just do it. Just care about some fucking
That's what
human
they're gonna
lives,
do.
man. Just care about some fucking human lives. If it really has validity, then just fucking do that. Just do that. You're already fucking raping us anyway. Just keep it fucking going, man. Keep it fucking going. Who gives a shit?
I kind of liked what Johnny said earlier. He had heard a conspiracy theory, and I haven't heard this yet, was the fact that this might be a test on universal basic income.
Which I don't believe that at all.
And
I'm
he's
just
not
saying
saying something he heard, something he specifically heard. I think that's very interesting. It truly is.
it's interesting to look at.
Yeah,
but
because
I don't believe it. But
I never said that you did,
Yeah.
but I think the mass amount of people that are getting paid unemployment right now and the amount of money that they're getting is definitely a livable wage for sure.
depends where you are.
True.
That would be the United States, to where we pick up the worst pieces of communism and then don't ever look into like universal health care at all for people, and people still have to pay out of pocket for health care, but yet the government,
pays you
regulates
fucking
your wage,
$1,000 a week.
and you get your money from the government. And then they decide on shit, but yet you
They would do that if they could, by the way.
Oh, of course.
They would totally implement that.
Of course. Some motherfuckers need to.
This is why I don't.
Be
This
held
is why I
accountable.
wanted to avoid this subject today because
No,
this
Makes
always.
you get angry. You get angry. It's just
And you
depressing
know what?
dark
No, we've
shit.
talked about it for the last month, and
No,
I'm over it.
We had a few podcasts about it. We've kind of skipped upon it the past 2 weeks because you guys had a break for 1 week. We didn't talk about it last week, really. But I think it truly is important. And I think the amount of time that you guys have had to think about this situation and how it affects your lives, and you guys know a lot about it. No, I'm not saying you know everything or even close to everything, but I think it's important to allow our viewers to know what you feel about it. Whether we like about talking about it or not, I think our perspectives are important on this situation. So I think it is a good thing to talk about.
But they know my perspective because of the last month. I mean, my perspective is the same as it was before, where this fucking sucks. Nobody likes it. You do what you have to do to save human lives, and the government fucking blows donkey dick every fucking day of the week. If the day ends with Y, the government fucking sucks. We already know that. And we've known that for years.
For sure. No, I get about it, but there's a lot of new shit still happening within.
It's nothing
within
new.
this.
The government still sucks.
No, I get that part, but there's a lot of other things.
This is what the shittiest part about this whole thing is that at some point, and I'm not even talking about the virus or anything right now, is at some point all this is going to come to a head, and you're going to piss off enough people to where there is a revolution against the government, against the federal government, because we get woken up to this whole thing of how much we are absolutely taken advantage of and
Hashtag
raped
woke,
financially.
bro.
And we come in and a lot of people are gonna have to die because of this, because of the corruption that's happened in our own government. We are not some godsend upon the world. The United States government is not the fucking best government. I'm a red-blooded American. Oh, man, I feel shitty for using a Southern voice right then. Anybody who's like, oh, I'm a red-blooded American and our government has everything right, I completely disagree with you, and you just haven't looked into it enough. We are being shit on by our government. Every day, our rights are being taken away, slowly yet surely. We're becoming more and more just pawns in their fucking game, and at some point, they're going to go too far because they get too cocky, because look at the transition of things. Banks got bailed out in 2008. Now you have Boeing getting bailed out, which is not necessary at all.
And the
but we're
government
gonna pay
having
for them.
stakes in that company.
So now some other shit's going to happen, and I don't know if it's going to happen the next time around, but whenever some shit crashes, the government's going to be bailing out bullshit again. And at some point, people are going to be like, what did you just do? And it's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back, and we rise up, And because we're forced to live a normal life. The second we're forced to live a normal life, go against our government and these people that are this tyranny-driven idea that they have, we step up and everything flips the script and everything's good for 100 years. And then everything starts going back.
Unless human beings progress, like we talked about earlier.
But the human being issue will always be there.
If evolution is real and Darwin's theory is right, we will evolve.
To something past humans.
I don't think Darwin said what it would be, but we would. I'm saying,
this is our own struggle. This is every individual.
So you don't
struggle.
agree with Darwinism?
I do agree with Darwinism.
So what I'm saying is we're going to evolve.
We will evolve, but not to a point
The
of...
strongest survive. You always notice it's the strongest that survive. Guess what makes a strong individual now? It's not physical strength anymore, right? You know what it is? It's financial strength.
That's not evolution, Jesse. That's
That-
not
no,
Dar-
That is how evolution is now.
that is not Darwinism, though.
That is
can
the
pay to
strongest
live longer.
survive.
You can
That's
pay to
not-
live longer. There's a really good example of somebody that we work for or have had worked for that if they didn't have the finances probably wouldn't be alive right now, right? Guess what? It's no longer so much because
Fair
of where
enough.
technology's at.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I know you're trying to send it off right now because I'm
No.
kind of shitting on your fucking opinion.
No,
a little bit.
you're right. You're completely right. I'll agree with
Shit
you.
has changed.
You're right.
Shit has changed. Shit is inevitable to change in one
But
direction.
I think that one
this shit is
instance,
set.
one instance that you talk about in that instance, you're completely right, 100% right. That medication and the way that our medical field has evolved will keep people alive longer, especially people with money. But that doesn't change the fact that Darwin's theory of evolution is going to be any different. Especially when you're talking about 6 billion people that live on this earth, or however many people that were eventually.
I still think that you're looking at evolution wrong, Paul.
I agree.
I don't think so, man.
I do. I think that you're not fully comprehending what evolution
when you
is.
say that money is involved with evolution,
is.
then you're wrong. You're
no,
completely wrong.
No, it is.
Money has
access.
You
It's
adapt
access.
to your
access.
no
evolution.
Money. You were completely
No.
off track because money has nothing to do
Yes,
and
it
play
does.
with the
Yes,
animal
it-
kingdom minus humans.
If you think you had the same genetics and you were born with $0 or born and had a fucking some trust fund that gave you $1 billion, you don't think you'd live longer with $1 billion on average?
No,
Evolution is your genetics adapting to a situation over a long period of time.
money has no.
It does.
Money
Yes.
has
No. We will adapt to the situation that.
even say that.
No.
It does. 100%
disagree.
Look at the access to fucking medication and shit. If you have the money, to solve the issue,
money.
Then
And
those genetics will
there are
pass
people who
on.
don't have money to go see a dentist. But you know one thing that people with less
no,
dental care
stop
live less.
yourself. Just because someone survived with money doesn't mean they're going to pass on those genetics, unless they pass on the money. Which at that point, if they pass on the money, then that same person has the same issue because that person had that issue, and it genetically passed on to their son or their daughter, and they have to use that same money. In that aspect, evolution does not. That is not evolution.
We evolve and adapt based on the situations around us, and right now, a situation around us is very much based on financial.
But yeah. I mean, we're gonna agree to disagree. I don't agree with you guys at all.
That's
with
fine.
that.
That's fine. You look at everything from a nature perspective, like everything has to adhere to nature.
I think that's what evolution is, especially
No, it
Darwin's
doesn't
theory.
have
Yeah,
to be.
his whole book was on species, bugs, insects, animals from
That was
different
within
countries.
his time. You have to reapply it now because shit has changed.
I
so
don't
much.
think you apply it. Money is no. I disagree. Money is man-made. It's printed, like you said yourself. It's printed.
Oddly
at an
enough, it
alarming
gives
rate.
you access to the best fucking technology. With technology, we can rewrite.
But that
human
doesn't
code.
change. True.
The human genome
they-
be readapted.
You haven't heard of
now.
CRISPR? That's years old. Years old.
We can clone shit. We can clone shit, bro.
for sure.
This wasn't in Darwin's fucking foresight. He wasn't worried about. First of all, he had to deal with the time that he was given, and he did his best to explain that, which makes perfect fucking sense. We're dealing with Darwin would be in awe, and he'd probably have even more insight on our fucking future right now, understanding the technology that we have right now. He lacked the information of the future, which we all do. But we know the technology of the fucking future.
I just want to
And
say
it is
that
very useful to the extending of human life that you can have shitty genetics, but if you're a billionaire, you can probably live just as long as any other fucking human being.
I just want to say that it popped into my head right now that the thumbnail
You
for
can
this video
transplant hearts and
is
shit, bro. What the fuck you talking about?
The-
We could literally you can put a new liver in me, and I just have to take medication. for the rest of my fucking life and live longer. Couldn't do that shit fucking 60 years ago.
The thumbnail for this video is literally just Darwin in front of a Confederate flag.
Fuck yeah, bro. Let's do it.
That's gonna no.
Not hit on any level? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's why it was called a joke, Jesse.
My bad. I'm taking things too literally now because you have to have a. I don't know.
Man, you're on this whole like heart transplant, all kinds of stuff. I was just trying to lighten it up before the end of the podcast.
And we did, man.
Good point. Good point. Life's too short not to fucking laugh at it. This whole thing's a fucking joke. Everybody should laugh at it.
We're just
That's dark, too.
We're just trying to just
Shit. My
give you
bad.
guys some ideas and some different things to think about your daily lives that you normally wouldn't think about. That's kind of where I feel like this podcast went tonight.
That's a lie. I'm just here so that you watch this and you're like, man, I have nothing better to do with my time during quarantine other than watch these three assholes. And they brought just a small amount of entertainment to my life right now.
Boom.
Be nice to other people. If somebody throws a baseball in your backyard, throw it back.
Yes, yes,
Sandlot, baby. Sandlot.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching, man. The biggest thing that you guys could do during these times or any time is just share this video if you like it. Or just share it even if you don't like it so everyone else doesn't like it. What? I'm just saying, just share the fucking video. Share the video. Hit that like button. Hit the bell notification. Hit the subscribe button to all our junkies out there.
Stay fly and ring the bell. And like the video. Likes are important.